హెచ్ఐసిసిలో బ్రాండ్ హైదరాబాద్ ప్రోగ్రాంలో మంత్రి కేటీఆర్ పాల్గొన్నారు. మీటింగ్లో కేటీఆర్ మాట్లాడుతున్నారు. లైవ్ చూద్దాం.
Very clearly remembering this, many of the IT leaders here were also part of that delegation. You kind of articulated and you made a presentation about your vision for IT industry, right? As you rightly said about Bangalore and why is that we're lagging behind, why can't we the number one, right? So we could understand your vision, right, for Hyderabad as to how we want to grow it. From 2014, the exports revenues are about close to 57,000 and odd. And today, you promised that it will just be doubled in about 5 years. So in 2020, we sit here with the numbers of 1,28,000 crores, which is an incredible achievement, right? And the highest year, the industry, we've really, feel pride to take, the step that, okay, we are also the partners in progress, right? And this achievement definitely would not have been possible unless otherwise we had a great amount of initiatives coming from you, right? Interventions from the government and the initiatives that you've taken and the vision that you had, how it's translated into action. So I want to just hear from you as to, I'm sure a lot of hard work has gone in. Just want to understand it, at least in the interest of the audience. We want to hear from you as to how did you, translate that vision to action and into reality.
Barani, I'm not trying to be modest, but the fact is, IT industry is an industry which doesn't really require a lot from the government other than 2-3 things. One, skilled manpower. 2, progressive policies. And 3, of course, law and order. These are the 3 important things which go into attracting IT industry. Now, in the last 5 years, when we said, it may have sounded audacious when we said initially that the current IT exports will be doubled in 5 years. Initially, it was, I think, 57,000 crores to be precise, back in 2014-15. To where it is now 128,000. It might have sounded audacious then, but without a question, Hyderabad, had that potential in itself. And secondly, combine that with your abilities to ensure that Hyderabad is marketed properly on a global stage. Right. Focus on innovation, focus on ensuring that even emerging technologies are harnessed properly here. And again, I might sound repetitive, progressive and able leadership. These are the things that really go into attracting, some marquee names. Today, the most valued technology companies in the world, all top 5 have, without an exception, made Hyderabad their second home in the world for their largest base.
Absolutely.
Google, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft. See, the credit again goes to the city and its enabling ecosystem and to the fantastic manpower that we have in Hyderabad. Without a question, government of course has been a facilitator, has been an enabler, but I think bulk of the credit should go to our youngsters, to our people who have actually, moved, who've been working here, who've really given the confidence to these investors to come in, set shop, to be able to find the talent right here. For example, Micron, a large company. Initially, when Sanjay Mehrotra came here, he said, I'm looking to hire about 2,500 people. I'll be, investing a certain sum. But then he tells me later, within 6 months or I think 8 months, he tells me, I think I'm going to quadruple, not even double or triple. Now that is the power of Hyderabad, that is the power of our people, to be able to ensure that we offer global solutions at scale, to the world, not just to our own.
By the way, Micron is going to be the single largest SEZ in Telangana. That's the kind of promise they've made.
I think they deserve a big round of applause, guys. They're the single largest SEZ in Telangana. And I think all of that has happened in the last 2 years, so kudos to them.
Absolutely. I think you said it so well, sir. I think it's all going to be a collaborative effort, right, with the government being an enabler, and the industry also is working, and the ecosystem has been developed so well that I think, we are in a, not really a self-sustainable mode, but I think with the government intervention, we certainly could just take that big leap forward. So if you look at the overall investment that are actually coming into Telangana, right, as compared to the rest of the states, particularly the FDI, right? We certainly see a lot happening in Telangana, particularly for Hyderabad. And as you rightly said, progressive government is very important, and the government policies are also very, very important. And for example, this recently announced Amazon's 2.77 billion investment, the largest data center, right? Is absolutely, I would say, a phenomenal and incredible kind of a news for the industry during the pandemic to just shorten the arm for us, right? And this happens just not like a simple statement given by Amazon CEO saying that, okay, no, we're going to invest 2.77 billion here, right? I'm sure behind the scenes, a lot of, effort, hard work, focused strategy must have gone in, right? I definitely would say that, I've said it to my lot of industry peers, that you acted as a CEO and the chief marketing officer and the chief sales officer. You done that had many times. You went to Davos and you went to, California, you went to Silicon Valley, wherever it is, name a place. You've been just, like say, donning that cap and then going there, doing all that stuff, right? So at least in the interest of the audience understanding, they should know as to how do you diligently pursue and the kind of perseverance that you or your government, right, puts in to be able to get these investments. And conversion ratio, one more point that I would like to mention. Investments could come, right? They would just make some statements, okay? But converting them to real, actual investments, the ratio, Telangana is rated very high, 40%, as compared to the national average of 23-24%, based on my limited analysis. But that's a huge success factor too, in terms of attracting investment. So how is that made possible?
Bunny, a lot of times, in fact, a decision, an investment decision, particularly when it gets announced, there's a lot of hard work behind the scenes. In fact, with Amazon, if you think about it, our relationship started about 6 years ago. In the initial days, when Amazon was looking to set up a fulfillment center, a basic fulfillment center, they chose Bangalore first. In fact, they had come to us because these were the days in 2014 when e-commerce was still not very well understood by the tax authorities. The local commercial taxes people, the value-added tax back then which existed, the VAT regime. They had come to us, Amazon officials, initially trying to understand how Telangana is looking at the whole e-commerce gamut. And when we gave them the confidence that Telangana really understands e-commerce and its potential and how we are going to be friendly in terms of, ensuring that our tax authorities, the local state tax authorities, will deal with them, because it's a learning process, So we will work together is what we promised them.
Absolutely.
They were really, really excited because, they had a tough time in Karnataka, the local tax authority. So when they came to us and when they saw how well Jayesh and the entire team responded, they agreed and they set up their first fulfillment center, the largest fulfillment center in India, back in 2015 in Hyderabad. That was the beginning of the relationship. Then they were scouting for, again, a location for their own office. And we went to Seattle all the way. And we had a series of meetings, Seattle and then also in Davos and elsewhere. And then came your largest Amazon office in the world. A 3 million square foot office that you see in Gachibowli, where, because they gained confidence. Because they gained confidence in this government, in this state, that these guys actually work as partners and don't necessarily look at us as investors. So then came the largest office. And when it came to their data center, Amazon Web Services today is one of the largest, they contribute, in fact, a significant chunk of revenue to Amazon. So when they were deliberating where to put up their large data centers, once again we met in Davos and we had this discussion. And eventually, it took a bit of time, but eventually about 6-7 months of negotiations and a lot of other things with respect to, incentives such as power tariffs, etc., eventually the deal was clinched. So, sales and investment is really about relationship building. It does not happen overnight. You really have to build a relation, you really have to work on it, series of meetings, a lot of wining and dining and, ensuring that they're taken care of properly and ensuring that there are relationship managers literally, to take care of their every need. This is how government of Telangana has worked in the last 6 years. We went out on a limb. We call ourselves a startup state. In fact, I keep telling a lot of my friends that since we are sitting in this ICF forum and since there are a lot of youngsters from the IT industry, I would say independent India's most successful startup is the state of Telangana, without a question. I think in the short span of 6 years, this state has really stabilized, the state has really outdone itself, and the state has really delivered on a number of counts. So that's what I keep telling my friends also, that we operate with the bent of mind of a startup. And the hunger, the passion that you see in not only me, but my colleague ministers, my colleague MLAs, when it comes to protecting the interests of Telangana, is primarily because of one reason. We fought hard for this state. We have a point to prove, not only to ourselves, but also to the people, the naysayers, who said we could not succeed. So therefore, whenever we do, whatever we do it in full, no half measures when it comes to promoting Telangana, when it comes to protecting Telangana's interests. And that's what has, I think, contributed to the success of the state.
So whenever I talk to you, I always just feel that passion in you, right? Because, even the last conversation I've had with you in your office after the new executive committee members of IC took over, the very first thing that you mentioned about